Hello America, I'm Brilyn Hollyhand, Editor-in-Chief of the Truth Gazette, and I'm here today exclusively with Turning Point USA's Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk before they speak tonight at the 2018 Alabama GOP Summer Dinner. Thank you both so very much for being here today with us. Charlie Kirk is the founder and president of Turning Point USA, and Candace Owens is an American conservative commentator and activist and director of communications at Turning Point USA. Thank you both very much.
Thank you.
So our first question for today. I know who both of you are and what an honor it is to have you both here. But for our subscribers that do not know who you are, what you do, and what Turning Point USA is, can you please explain that to them? Mr. Kirk, you're first on this one.
Sure. Call me Charlie. First of all, it's awesome what you're doing. I got you're much further ahead of the curve than I was. I got started when I was 14, so you're way ahead of the game. Turning Point USA, we're the nation's largest young conservative libertarian organization on 1,300 college and high school campuses now across the country. Start chapters on campuses, fight back against the Marxist indoctrination that's happening all across the country, and we are bringing it to the left, and you're succeeding when you're taking a lot of incoming, right, Candace? Every so often, a little bit? Just a little bit of
Just
incoming.
a little.
Here's a good quote for you, don't forget this: when you're taking flack, that's how you know you're over the target. And so no one hunts small deer, but we're doing great, and it's such a blessing to live in the greatest country at the greatest time with this opportunity. This organization is only possible in America to save America, which is one of the coolest things about it. So,
Ms. Owens?
So yes, that's a little bit about Turning Point. I signed on the dotted line with Charlie back in November of last year, me being hyper-focused on this awakening that I think the Black community is going through and should have been going through much earlier, and understanding that there's not much for us on the left, not much for us being offered by the Democrat Party, and just trying to re-educate them, and I think primarily trying to understand how I thought I had to be a liberal, thought I had to be a Democrat, and trying to reverse that. And a major way you can do that is through the education system, since conservative ideas and beliefs are not being taught on college campuses.
So our second question, the fake news media says that Russian hackers helped get Trump in office, but the overflowing stadiums filled with Trump supporters and his high approval ratings prove otherwise. What are your thoughts on this? Ms. Owens, you're first.
It's a hoax. It is a conspiracy theory. Look, I think they don't know how to deal with the fact that they lost. That's the first thing. And the second thing is they don't know how to deal with the fact that they are losing power. And this is their reaction to it. It's a desperate attempt. You can hear the desperation in their voices as they keep trying to pitch this hoax. But if you look at just the ratings of the networks that talk about it the most, they're failing. Fox News is rated number one. They are behind this president. They have been presenting the non-facts of this case, I should say, because there are no facts surrounding this case. And it's a way to just tarnish the president while it made it a very difficult first year for him. And now we're at 18 months and there's nothing there. So it is a Russian hoax.
Thank you, Mr. Kirk.
it's amazing what he's accomplishing despite all this onslaught from the media and the Democrats and Mueller. Mueller should never have been approved. It's a total disaster. The only people that colluded with the Russians are the Democrats. Those are the people that, if you actually want Russian collusion, go to the Hillary Clinton campaign, go to Fusion GPS using a foreign agent to set up a fake meeting with Donald Trump Jr. that he rejected. There was no follow-up, no transfer information. That's their big linchpin to disaster. So they say that Hillary lost because of the Russians. Did the Russians force her not to go to Wisconsin or Michigan the last 2 months to campaign? Did the Russians tell her never to, campaign or to just call it in?
Stop, Charlie. They're going to actually start to tell that story.
That's right. Wait a second. Did the Russians? Here's the thing. Did the Russians hack her speech and add the word deplorables in there?
He's giving them ideas now.
You think we're kidding? They might actually do this, but look, America, we need to end the investigation immediately, defund it. Mueller should be fired, and all these findings, Manafort, Cohen, nothing to do with Russian collusion. It's just trying to stir up a narrative that there's criminality around Trump, and there isn't. And that's why it's going to be up for us to continue to tell the story of actually what's going on in D.C.
I've watched as your organization's popularity has grown over the years. How do you believe Turning Point USA has grown even more since President Trump has been elected? Do you believe the conservative movement is on the rise? Is this surprising despite what you see in the media? Mr. Kirk?
I think his popularity is even higher than what it is in the public polls. I think he's up 55-60%. I think it's only going to go up from there. He's an unbelievably successful president, if not one of the most successful in American history. From the judges, the deregulation, the tax cuts, what he's doing foreign policy-wise, because he's not succumbed to a party agenda. And I think he's going to convincingly get reelected. And anyone who dares oppose this president or this administration or his agenda, they're going to be on the wrong side of history.
Couldn't agree more. And I would say, I think for Turning Point USA, why we've been able to grow so tremendously is that we did things differently.
Mm-hmm.
I always say Charlie's like a political architect. Prior to, I think, Turning Point's existence, the conservative movement and the Republicans in general were considered very boring, very
Mm-hmm.
old, and the left was very good at being the youth movement. They were good at engaging the youth. That's why so many late night hosts they're all leftists and they're constantly making jokes. And I think because of that sincerity, conservatives were losing. We have engaged the youth. We've made it fun. We have slogans. We use hashtags, but we still talk about the really important core tenets of conservatism.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is the big difference maker.
The fake news media has grown significantly since President Trump was elected. How do you think conservative organizations like Turning Point USA can work to return the media to being based on facts when providing information to Americans? Ms. Owens?
So what I always say is that we are no longer in a time where we have to rely on the mainstream media. Obviously, I got my start on YouTube. You're starting your own thing right now. Due to the fact that we live in a time where social media is where people are engaged, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, that's really where the youth is paying attention to, and that's where people are getting their ideas. So it allows all of us to have a platform. It allows all of us to compete in that space. Our videos garner more views than CNN's. And that's tremendous. That I did a video when I started off that got 29 million views worldwide and was dubbed in 3 different languages. So that lets us know that there's a market that we can enter and they can't compete with it. They no longer have a monopoly on ideas.
That's exactly right. And so because of new technology and the fact that everyone has a supercomputer in their right-hand pocket, we can go around the fake news media. Now, the bigger enemy than fake news media is the tech companies. That's what we have to focus on, tech companies. Candace and I we're going through a many-week reflection of how to properly address this, because I don't even know if I have the answer. But CNN, New York Times, they're going to fail. Forget about them. They're a disaster. But here's the analogy I use. Okay, and this is from Dennis Prager, who I love and I adore. Imagine if American Airlines, United, and Delta, the 3 big airlines, said that anyone who carries the Wall Street Journal onto our planes can't fly. Now, they have the right to do that as a private company. But all of a sudden, they could restrict, you have no other options, right? There's like no way to get to Bozeman, Montana, where we're going, unless you fly one of those airlines. Like, you just can't do it. And that's the same thing that Twitter, Facebook, and Google collude together. You got no other options to get your message out. I mean, there are other options, but it's really, really tough. And so the tech companies, that's the problem. The media, they'll sort themselves out. We're already destroying them. Their ratings are down, their viewing is down, no one respects them. Tech companies, they're the enemy. We got to figure that out.
Right, and watching that interview of Brian Stelter with Jack Dorsey a couple of weeks ago, they're pressing Twitter now to sort of, I guess, embark on this path of censorship. And because they realized the reason Trump was able to be successful is he got around the mainstream media. The reason that Turning Point is so successful is because we got around the mainstream media.
That's
Nobody
correct.
really cares what they put out about us anymore. If they stop that path and are no longer able to get around the mainstream media, it's going to be problematic.
They don't censor you because you're offensive. They censor you because you're effective.
Correct.
Well, eating breakfast recently, both of you were attacked by protesters.
Eating breakfast.
Oh, that was a fun one.
If you were able to sit down with the people who attacked you recently, what messages would you want to convey to them? Do you think you'd be able to agree on any topics? Are your messages really that different, Mr. Kirk?
Look, I come from a position of grace and love. I actually wasn't angry during, before, or after. I would love to sit down with them and see where their life went wrong. Because, look, forget the policy thing. I would love to say, listen, where in your life, what decision do you think you made that made it where you now need to go into a private establishment at 8 a.m. on a Monday morning and interrupt someone's peaceful breakfast? Like, what sequence of choices led you to this? Like, I would love them to highlight, like, 3 big moments. That's what I would love to talk with them about. It's more like a psychoanalysis, because it fascinates me how someone becomes so broken that they could do that.
I think I would like to go over basic definitions with them. Call themselves anti-fascists. They wouldn't let us speak, right? They wouldn't let us speak, and they were shutting down conversations at one point.
Vocab would be a good start.
Yeah, vocab would be a very good start. That's good, right? Yeah, exactly. Some visual
coordination.
Yeah, some visual tests would be great as they're screaming white supremacy to a black woman. So I think just a lot of that laying down some basic groundwork, preschool, elementary things would be a good start. But no, we obviously have nothing in common because we believe in productive dialogue, we believe in peaceful dialogue, and we believe that people with the best ideas should win, not the people with the loudest, the biggest bullhorn. So
Literally.
And our last question for today, Turning Point USA works with young adults interested in getting involved in politics. What advice would you give young people like me who are interested in getting involved in politics?
You don't need any advice. Well, this is a bad question because look at you. You are amazing. We will be working for you in a few years. So you are doing every piece of advice that I would say. Get involved. Don't feel like you need to have the blessing from a big network to do what you want to do. You live in an environment where you can be a self-starter. If you're motivated, you will get your foot in the door. So we should be taking lessons from you on how you were able to get engaged that young. You should be giving advice to people that are your age.
Yeah, there's no excuse not to do what you love. I mean, you're a great example of this, right? I mean, I started the organization at 18. You're 6 years ahead of me. You've already been doing this for probably a decade. Right? You've been doing this for like an entire decade. But look, the advice I have more generally is that if you see a problem, do something about it. Don't complain about it. And so this is what I love about Candace. Candace saw a problem in the Black community. It's very easy. There's a professional complaining class in media. They're really, really good at it. And no, seriously, they're professional complainers. They get paid to complain. And I'm not going to say any names, but you could guess. And mostly on the left. There's some on the right. They go, all they do is complain. Candace is like, I don't want to be part of that professional complaint. I want to go do something. So if you see a problem, oh, my teacher said, well, do something about it. Cross-examine them, start a Turning Point chapter, start an organization, start a YouTube channel. You see a problem, you fix it. That's what we've done with Turning Point. So Candace has done with the Black community, and that's what's made America continually the greatest country ever to exist, is we have people that see problems and they solve them, not just complain about them.
And also focus, know who your enemies are, focus on what you want to build, not what you want to destroy. And Charlie's wristband, every day, you're not going to be perfect every day, but if you're better and you work harder than the day before, don't be too hard on yourself. You will be successful.
Be better, work harder.
Outwork your opponents.
That's right, and that's something that Candace and I try to do every single day is, no matter what, when we are working at 2 o'clock in the morning, our opponents are sleeping. And that gives us an immense amount of satisfaction. Because at least, if we don't win, whatever winning looks like, we have our own idea of what victory looks like, bringing the Black vote 50% on that, it will not because anyone outworked us. And that's one of the things you can control, your attitude and your work ethic. Those are 2 things you can control every day. There's other things, being on time, all that sort of stuff, but your attitude and your work ethic. And the work ethic's so important because that doesn't get talked about enough. So easy to cut corners, so easy to want to take a nap and go on vacation or sleep in, but work ethic is everything.
And from y'all helping young adults, do you believe there will be an increase in voter turnout in 2020 for younger adults?
I do. Hands down, I definitely think there will be. I think people are naturally more engaged just because of all the drama surrounding this presidency, and engagement can be a good thing. I definitely think, especially in the minority community, I see it on the ground that people are really starting to realize how much politics affects their lives in ways that they hadn't realized that before. So
I agree completely.
Well, thank you so very much for sitting down with me. It's been an honor to get to meet you and do this interview. This is hands down my favorite interview we've done so far. So thank you so
God bless you.
And please